add a whole number and a fraction. And I'm going to show you two different ways to add a whole number to a fraction in this video. So let's take a look at the example here, 9 plus 2/3. Adding the whole number and fraction is pretty easy because we just combine the whole number and a fraction and write that in the form of mixed fraction. So I'm going to write 9 plus 2/3 as 9 and 2/3. See, I got the mixed fraction. Mixed fraction is made up of the whole number and the fraction. So if you separate this, you're going to get this 9 plus 2/3. And if you combine it, you can write this as a mixed fraction, right? So I got 9 and 2/3. Now, if you want to convert this into a fraction, what you can do is you can multiply the whole number with the fraction's denominator. So 9 times 3 gives you 27. And then whatever you get, you add that to the numerator. So 27 plus 2 gives you 29. So we're going to put 29 in the numerator. And then we don't change the denominator. So we're going to leave it as 3. So this is going to be 29 over 3. If you need to write this in the form of fraction. But if you want to leave it in the form of mixed fraction, you can just write this as 9 and 2/3. Now I'm going to show you a different way to add a whole number and a fraction, which is more reliable. So let's say if I have 9 and 2/3, and if I want to add this, and I'm going to use a different technique to add this. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to convert both of them into fractions. This one is already a fraction. I'm going to convert this one into a fraction by setting the denominator equal to 1. And you always remember that if you have the whole number and if you want to write that as a fraction, you just put 1 in the denominator and you're not changing the value of it. This is still going to be 9 divided by 1 is still going to give you 9. So we're not changing anything, right? Just this is a different way of writing. Now I'm going to write this 9 over 1 plus 2/3. Now to add the fractions, we know that we need to have the same denominators. Here you see that I have different denominators. I have 1 here and I have 3 here. So I cannot add these fractions unless I make the denominators equal. So what I'm going to do is we know that we need to multiply the fractions in order to get the denominators equal, right? So I cannot multiply anything into 3 to make it 1, but I can multiply something into 1 to make it equal to 3, right? So what do I multiply in 1 to make it equal to 3? Well, I can multiply this by 3. So I'm going to multiply the denominator by 3. See, 1 times 3 or 3 times 1 is going to give me 3. But since I'm multiplying my denominator by 3, I would also have to multiply my numerator by 3 because we need to balance the fraction. And see, this 3 over 3 is just a fancy form of writing 1 because 3 divided by 3 is going to give me 1, right? So it's just a fancy form of 1. And then think about this, 1 times 9 over 1. 1 times 9 over 1 is still going to be 9, right? So we're not even changing this, right? We're not even changing the whole number. This is just a different form of writing it, right? And now you can see that I can make the denominators equal. 1 times 3 or 3 times 1 is going to give me 3. And then 3 times 9 is going to give me 27. So I can put 27 on top. And then plus, this is 2/3. Now my denominators are equal. I can go ahead and add these fractions, right? So I'm going to add the numerators. 27 plus 2 is going to give me 29. And we're going to put the denominator as it is because we don't change the denominators when we add the fractions. We never add the denominators of the fractions, right? So I got 29 over 3 and you see that we got the same answer here. Now if I want to convert this improper fraction, this is an improper fraction, right? Because my numerator is greater than the denominator, so this is an improper fraction. Now if I want to convert this into a mixed fraction, I can do that using the long division method. So I'm going to divide 29 by 3, right? 3 will go into 29 9 times, and I'm going to get 27. 3 times 9 is 27, and when I subtract this, 9 minus 7 gives me 2. So I can write this as I'm going to write my whole number first. So I'm going to write the quotient. Quotient becomes the whole number. So we're going to put 9 here. And then I'm going to use my remainder and divisor to write my fraction. So remainder goes in the numerator and the divisor goes in the denominator. So I can write this as 9 and 2/3. And that's going to be my final answer. You see that we got the same thing here, right? So this is just a shortcut of adding. If you have a fraction and a whole number, you can just go ahead and add it, write that in the form of mixed fraction, 9 and 2/3, and that's going to work. So I hope you feel comfortable in adding whole number and fractions. If you are new to this channel and want to see more videos on other math topics, be sure to subscribe down below and share it with your friends. Hi, in this video we'll learn how to simplify fractions to its lowest term. To reduce the fraction to its lowest term, we need to divide the numerator and the denominator by the greatest common factor. Now, what do you mean by greatest common factor? Greatest common factor is the largest number that can divide evenly into two other numbers. For example, the greatest common factor of 2 and 10 will be 2 because 2 is the largest number that can divide into both 2 and 10. So we will divide the numerator as well as the denominator by our greatest common factor. Now 2 divided by 2 is equal to 1 and 10 divided by 2 is equal to 5. Notice that the new fraction is equivalent to the original fraction. 2/10 is equal to 1/5. And I cannot reduce this fraction anymore. This fraction is in lowest term now because we cannot divide the numerator and the denominator by any other number other than 1. So now we know that 2/10 is equal to 1/5. Now let's take a look at this example, 8 divided by 32. All we need to do is we need to think the greatest number which can go evenly into 8 and 32. Well, the greatest number which can divide into both 8 and 32 is 8. So I will divide my numerator and the denominator by 8 in order to reduce this fraction. 8 divided by 8 is equal to 1, and 32 divided by 8 is equal to 4. So 8 over 32 can be reduced to 1/4, and these are equivalent fractions. So I can write that 8 over 32 is equal to 1/4, and I know that I cannot reduce this fraction anymore because we cannot divide 1 and 4 by any other number other than 1. Now let's take a look at this example. Now when you have bigger numbers, when you have larger numbers, it's hard to identify the greatest common factor. In that case, what we're going to do is we're going to list down the factors of 35 and 42. So let's list down the factors of 35 and 42. Obviously, the factors of 35 are going to be 1 and 35. And 35 is also divisible by 5. And we know that 7 times 5 is also 35. So 35 is divisible by 7 as well. So we know that the factors of 35 are going to be 1, 5, 7, and 35. Now let's write down the factors of 42. Starting from 1. Now, since 42 is an even number, it's obviously divisible by 2. 42 is also divisible by 3. Then we know that 7 times 6 is 42. You think of two factors which when multiplied to give you 42. So we're going to think of two factors which when multiplied to give us 42. We know that 7 times 6 is 42. Now since 42 is divisible by 2, right, it's an even number. So if we divide 42 by 2, we'll get 21. So we know that 2 times 21 gives us 42. The same way, if I divide 42 by 3, I'll get 14. So 3 times 14 is also 42. And then what else? Obviously, 1 times 42 is going to give us 42. So let's write down the factors of 42. This will be 3 after 3. Let's keep it organized. So we're going to write 6 after that, then 7. And then what else do we have? We have 14. We have 21. And obviously, it's going to be 42. So we know that the factors of 42 are 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 14, 21, and 42. Now we're looking for the largest number, which is common in both. Largest factor, which is common in both of them, right? So the largest number, the largest factor, which is common in both of them is going to be 7. So I know that the GCF of 35 and 42 is going to be 7. That means I have to divide my numerator and the denominator by 7. So let's go ahead and do that. 35 divided by 7 is going to be 5, and then 42 divided by 7 is going to be 6. So I can reduce my fraction 35 over 42 to 5/6. Let's look at this fraction, 15 over 36. So let's list down the factors of 15 and 36. The factors of 15 are going to be 1, 3, because 3 times 5 is 15. Obviously, it's going to be 5, because whenever you have a 5 at the units place, that number is always divisible by 5. So 5 is a factor of 15, and obviously 15 will be a factor of 15. Now let's write down the factors of 36. Now, since this is a bigger number, let's do it this way. We're going to think what two factors multiplied to give us 36. Well, 6 times 6 is 36. 12 times 3 is 36. 2 times 18 is also 36. Since 36 is an even number, it will be divisible by 2. So that's why I divided 36 by 2. And I got 18. So I've written 2 times 18 is equal to 36. 4 times 9. 4 times 9 is also equal to 36. And I think that's it. Obviously, 1 times 36 is 36. So we're going to write that. We have to write the factors from 1 through 36. So the first factor is going to be 1. We're going to write all the factors in order. So 2, then we have 3, then we have 4, then we have 6, then we have 9, then we have 12, and then we have 18, and obviously 36. Now, if you want, you can stop after 12. You don't have to write 18 and 36 because we're looking for the greatest common factor. We're looking for a factor which is common in both. Since this number is 15, it doesn't make sense to write the factors which are greater than 15 here because we won't be able to find the common factor if we write the numbers which are greater than 15. And now we can see that the factor which is common with the greatest factor which is common in both is going to be 3. So I can divide my fraction 15 over 36 by 3 since 3 is my GCF. 15 divided by 3 is going to be 5 and 36 divided by 3 is going to be 12. So I can reduce my fraction 15 over 36 to 5/12 and that's going to be my final answer. If you are new to this channel and want to see more videos on other math topics, be sure to subscribe down below and share it with your friends. Hi, in this video we'll learn how to add fractions. So you can see that I have 3 unlike fractions. Unlike fractions, what do you mean by unlike fractions? When you have unlike denominators, you see that the denominators of all the fractions are different. Here I have 3 and 6, and these are unlike fractions because you have different denominators here. Here also the same thing. You have 8 in the denominator and 5 in the denominator, so these are the unlike fractions because you have different denominators, and the same thing over here. So when you have to add unlike fractions, you have to convert them into like fractions so that you can add them. So I will show you 2 different cases. In the first case, this is the first case in which one of the fractions denominator is a multiple of other fractions denominator. So here you can see that 6 is a multiple of 3, and here also 10 is a multiple of 5. So this is a different case. These 2 are different cases in which one of the fractions denominator is a multiple of other fractions denominator. So we'll talk about this case later, but let's solve this one first. So whenever you have unlike fractions and you want to convert them into like fractions, there's a simple way to do it. What I'm going to do is I'll multiply each fraction with the denominator of other fraction. So I'll multiply this fraction by the denominator of this fraction, which is 5, and I'll multiply this fraction by the denominator of this fraction, which is 8. So you multiply each fraction with the denominator of the other fraction. So you just multiply by the denominator of each other. So for here, 3, 8, I will multiply this fraction by the other fraction denominator here, 5 over 5. Now remember that I'm doing that to the numerator and denominator so that I'm just 5 divided by 5 is going to be 1, and then 3, 8 times 1 will be just 1. So I'm not changing the value of fraction at all. I'm just trying to make the denominators equal. Then I have the plus sign in between. Then I have 2/5. Now I will multiply this fraction by this fraction's denominator. So I'll multiply 2/5 by 8 here. So 8 over 8. Then I will just multiply the numerators and then the denominators. So 5 times 3 is going to be 15. 8 times 5 or 5 times 8 will be 40. Plus 2 times 8 is going to be 16. And then 5 times 8 is going to be 40. So I have got here now, you can see that I have same denominators. Now remember that in addition and subtraction of fractions, you never add or subtract the denominator. So the denominator will remain same, it will be 40. And then 15 plus 16 is going to be 31. So here my answer will be 31 over 40. And I can't reduce it anymore because 31 is a prime number. So this will be my final answer. Now let's look at this case. Now here, as I told you that if one of the fraction is a multiple of other fraction, here 6 is a multiple of 3. So if this is the case, then instead of multiplying both the fractions by each other's denominator, we can just multiply one fraction. So here we multiplied both the fractions by each other's denominator. But here, since 6 is a multiple of 3, we will not be multiplying both the fractions. We can only multiply one fraction and make the denominator equal, and I'll show you how to do that. So here, 2/3 plus 1/6. Now, 6 is a multiple of 3. I can't really do anything to 6 to make it equal to 3. Well, you might think that I can divide that by 2. But usually when we're adding or subtracting fractions, we are not talking about the division. We're not talking about division. We are only talking about multiplication to make the denominators equal. So we can't do anything to 6 to make it equal to 3, but we can multiply 3 by 2 to make it equal to 6. So here what I'm going to do is I will just multiply this fraction by 2. So I'll multiply this fraction by 2 over 2. And you can see that 2 times 3 is going to be 6. So I'll get the same denominator. So instead of multiplying this fraction by 3 and then this fraction by 6, instead of multiplying each fraction with each other's denominator, we can just multiply one fraction. And why do we do a lot of calculation when we get the answer in a simple way? So now let's go ahead and multiply the numerators and denominators. So 2 times 2 is going to be 4. And 2 times 3 is going to be 6 plus 1/6. Now, you never add or subtract the denominator. So denominator will be 6 and 4 plus 1 is going to be 5. So my final answer is 5/6. 5/6. This is my final answer. So now here, I'll take a look at this example. Here also we have the second case in which one of the fractions denominator is a multiple of other fractions denominator. One of the fractions denominator is a multiple of other fractions denominator. So here 10 is a multiple of 5. So what we're going to do is instead of multiplying both the fractions by each other's denominator, we can just multiply one fraction. Now you need to think that you can't multiply anything into 10 to make it 5. But you can multiply something into 5 to make it 10. So look here. So this is 3/5. What do you multiply into this to get the denominator 10? Well, I can just multiply this by 2. And if I'm doing that to the denominator, I will have to do the same thing to the numerator. So I'll multiply the numerator by 2 and then I can get 3 times 2 is going to be 6. So same thing I'm doing here. So let's do it like this. So I'll multiply this by 2 over 2. And now I will get 6/10, because 2 times 3 is 6 and 2 times 5 is 10. And then I have plus 4/10. Now 6 plus 4 is going to be 10. And then as I told you that you never add or subtract the denominator, so the denominator will be 10. And 10 over 10 is a whole number, so this will be equal to 1. So my final answer is 1. So I have taught you 2 different cases. This is the first case in which you have unlike fractions and unlike denominators, and you multiply each fraction with the denominator of other fraction to make it equal. And this is the second case in which one of the fractions denominator is a multiple of other fractions denominator. Now you can go, sometimes you might not remember that this is 6 is a multiple of 3 if you ignore it and just go ahead and solve it by this method, by multiplying this fraction by 3 and this by 6, you're still going to get the same answer. So this is how you add unlike fractions. If you are new to this channel and want to see more videos on other math topics, be sure to subscribe down below and share it with your friends. Hi, in this video we'll learn how to add a whole number and a fraction. And I'm going to show you 2 different ways to add a whole number to a fraction in this video. So let's take a look at the example here, 9 plus 2/3. Adding the whole number and fraction is pretty easy because we just combine the whole number and a fraction and write that in the form of mixed fraction. So I'm going to write 9 plus 2/3 as 9 and 2/3. See, I got the mixed fraction. Mixed fraction is made up of the whole number and the fraction. So if you separate this, you're going to get this 9 plus 2/3. And if you combine it, you can write this as a mixed fraction, right? So I got 9 and 2/3. Now, if you want to convert this into a fraction, what you can do is you can multiply the whole number with the fraction's denominator. So 9 times 3 gives you 27. And then whatever you get, you add that to the numerator. So 27 plus 2 gives you 29. So we're going to put 29 in the numerator. And then we don't change the denominator. So we're going to leave it as 3. So this is going to be 29 over 3. If you need to write this in the form of fraction. But if you want to leave it in the form of mixed fraction, you can just write this as 9 and 2/3. I'm going to show you a different way to add a whole number and a fraction, which is more reliable. So let's say if I have 9 and 2/3, and if I want to add this, and I'm going to use a different technique to add this. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to convert both of them into fractions. This one is already a fraction. I'm going to convert this one into a fraction by setting the denominator equal to 1. And you always remember that if you have the whole number and if you want to write that as a fraction, you just put 1 in the denominator. And you're not changing the value of it. This is still going to be 9 divided by 1 is still going to give you 9. So we're not changing anything, right? Just this is a different way of writing. Now I'm going to write this 9 over 1 plus 2/3. Now to add the fractions, we know that we need to have the same denominators. Here you see that I have different denominators. I have 1 here and I have 3 here. So I cannot add these fractions unless I make the denominators equal. So what I'm going to do is we know that we need to multiply the fractions in order to get the denominators equal, right? So I cannot multiply anything into 3 to make it 1, but I can multiply something into 1 to make it equal to 3, right? So what do I multiply in 1 to make it equal to 3? Well, I can multiply this by 3. So I'm going to multiply the denominator by 3. See, 1 times 3 or 3 times 1 is going to give me 3. But since I'm multiplying my denominator by 3, I would also have to multiply my numerator by 3 because we need to balance the fraction. And see, this 3 over 3 is just a fancy form of writing 1 because 3 divided by 3 is going to give me 1, right? So it's just a fancy form of 1. And then think about this, 1 times 9 over 1. 1 times 9 over 1 is still going to be 9, right? So we're not even changing this, right? We're not even changing the whole number. This is just a different form of writing it, right? And now you can see that I can make the denominators equal. 1 times 3 or 3 times 1 is going to give me 3. And then 3 times 9 is going to give me 27. So I can put 27 on top. And then plus, this is 2/3. Now my denominators are equal. I can go ahead and add these fractions, right? So I'm going to add the numerators. 27 plus 2 is going to give me 29. And we're going to put the denominator as it is because we don't change the denominators when we add the fractions. We never add the denominators of the fractions, right? So I got 29 over 3, and you see that we got the same answer here. Now, if I want to convert this improper fraction, this is an improper fraction, right? Because my numerator is greater than the denominator, so this is an improper fraction. Now, if I want to convert this into a mixed fraction, I can do that using the long division method. So I'm going to divide 29 by 3, right? 3 will go into 29 9 times, and I'm going to get 27. 3 times 9 is 27, and when I subtract this, 9 minus 7 gives me 2. So I can write this as I'm going to write my whole number first. So I'm going to write the quotient. Quotient becomes the whole number, so we're going to put 9 here, and then I'm going to use my remainder and divisor to write my fraction. So remainder goes in the numerator and the divisor goes in the denominator. So I can write this as 9 and 2/3. And that's going to be my final answer. You see that we got the same thing here, right? So this is just a shortcut of adding. If you have a fraction and a whole number, you can just go ahead and add it, write that in the form of mixed fraction, 9 and 2/3, and that's going to work. So I hope you feel comfortable in adding whole number and fractions. If you are new to this channel and want to see more videos on other math topics, be sure to subscribe down below and share it with your friends. Hi, in this video we'll learn how to add mixed fraction to a fraction. So to do that, first of all, we'll have to convert the mixed fraction into fraction. And then we'll add both the fractions because we know how to add the fractions. So let's convert this mixed fraction into an improper fraction first. How do we convert that is we'll multiply the whole number with the denominator first. So you multiply these two first. You multiply the whole number with the denominator. So 4 times 2 will be equal to 8. And then you add it to the numerator. So you add it to the numerator. So 8 plus 1 is equal to 9. So I can write 9 in my numerator. So 9 is the numerator. And the denominator will still remain the same. So I can write 2 in my denominator. This is how you convert a mixed fraction into a improper fraction. Why is it called improper fraction? Because the numerator is greater than the denominator. Usually we see these kind of fractions, which is called the proper fractions, in which the numerator is smaller than the denominator. But here, the numerator is greater than the denominator. And we always get an improper fraction. We get an improper fraction when we try to convert a mixed fraction into a fraction. Now, I have plus 1/3 here. Now, you see that I have different denominators. So when you have different denominators, you cannot add the fractions. You need to find the common denominator. So what I'll do is I'll multiply each fraction with each other's denominator. That means I'll multiply this fraction with this fraction's denominator, and I'll multiply this fraction with this fraction's denominator. So I have to multiply this fraction with this fraction's denominator. And what is the denominator you see? You see that the denominator is 3. So I'll multiply this fraction by 3/3. Now, it's important to multiply the numerator as well as the denominator, because multiplying this by 3/3 is just multiplying it by 1. So you're not changing the value of the fraction. So that's why it's important that you multiply the numerator and denominator as well. Now, let's multiply this fraction now. So I have to multiply this fraction with this fraction's denominator. So what is the denominator here? I see that the denominator is 2 here. So I can multiply this by 2/2. Okay. Now, we can just go ahead and multiply the numerators. 3 times 9 will be equal to 27. And then denominators, 3 times 2 is equal to 6. And then I have a plus sign in between. 1 times 2 will be 2. And 3 times 2 will be 6. Now, you can see that I have got the same denominators. That's how you get the same denominators, when you multiply your fraction with each other's denominator. Now, we know that we never add or subtract the denominators. We do multiply them, but we never add or subtract them. So my denominator will still remain 6 here. And then 27 plus 2. 27 plus 2 will be equal to 29. And I cannot reduce this fraction anymore. This is already in simplest form. So I can leave my answer like this, or I can change it into a mixed fraction. Now, how do we convert a fraction into a mixed fraction? We can again divide it. So 29 divided by 6. How many times 6 goes into 29? 29 goes into 6. How many times 29 goes into 6? So 6 times 4 is 24. And when you subtract it, 9 minus 4 will be equal to 5. And how do I write this? I write my quotient first, which is 4. So I'll write 4 first. And then the remainder becomes my fraction's numerator. So 5 goes on top. And then divisor goes in the denominator. This is how you write the mixed fraction. Your remainder becomes your fraction's numerator, and the divisor becomes the denominator, and you can write quotient as a whole number. So your answer is 29/6 or 4, 5, 6. That's the final answer. You can both the answers are correct. It depends what your teacher wants. If she wants you to write the answer in mixed fraction, then you can write this, or if she wants the answer in the fraction, you can leave your answer in this form. Hi, in this video, I'll show you how to add mixed numbers with like denominators. So let's take a look at this example. I have 4/7/8 plus 1/5/8. So adding the mixed numbers with like denominators is pretty easy. You add the whole numbers separately from the fractions, and then add the fractional part and combine the results. So let's add the whole numbers first. So the whole numbers, I have 1 and 4. So let's add them. 4 plus 1 will give me 5. Now I'm done adding the whole numbers. Now I have to add the fractional part. So for the fractional part, I have 7/8 and 5/8. So let's add the fractional part now. So 7/8 plus 5 over 8. Now, good thing is I have like denominators, so I don't have to worry. I can just add the numerators. So 7 plus 5, that will give me 12. And I still have denominator 8 because you don't add the denominators. Now, 12 over 8, we can convert this into the mixed number form. Let's convert it. So 12 divided by 8. How many times does 12 goes into 8? Well, 1 times. 8 times 1 is 8. And then 12 minus 8 will be 4. So how do I write this in the mixed number? Is I have to write, this becomes my whole part. So I will write 1 first. Then the remainder goes on the top. This will become my numerator. And then the divisor goes at the bottom. So this will become my denominator. So I have 4 over 8. Now you can see that 4 over 8 can be reduced. This is not in the simplest form. So let's divide it. We can divide this by 4. We can divide this by 2, but that will be, if you divide this by 2, you will have to divide again by 2 because you will not get the simplest form in one single step. So you always divide by the greatest number they're divisible with. So let's divide this by 4. 4 over 4. So when you divide 4 over 8 with 4 over 4, let's ignore 1 for a bit. We are working on this fraction. So 4 divided by 4 will give me 1, and 8 divided by 4 will be 2. So our mixed number will be 1 over 2. Right, now this is our fractional part. Still, this is a mixed number, but this was our fractional part. Now we have to combine the whole part and the fractional part. So let's combine it together. So I have 5 for the whole part, and then I have to add 1 over 2 to this. So again, I have the whole part and the fractional part. So I will add the whole part first. 5 plus 1 will give me 6. And for the fractional part, I only have 1 over 2. So I will write this as 1 over 2. So my final answer is, when you add 4 7 over 8 plus 1 5 over 8, you're going to get 6 1 over 2. That's my final answer. If you are new to this channel and want to see more videos on other math topics, be sure to subscribe down below and share it with your friends. Hi, in this video we'll learn how to add mixed fractions with unlike denominators. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to convert these mixed fractions into improper fractions. To do that, we're going to multiply the whole number with the fraction's denominator first, and then whatever we get, we're going to add that to the numerator. So let's first multiply the whole number with the fraction's denominator. So 5 times 6 will give me 30, and 30 plus 5 is going to give me 35. So my numerator is going to be 35 over 6. Numerator is 35, and the denominator will still remain the same. We're not going to change the denominator. Then we're going to put the plus sign in between. Again, we're going to convert this mixed fraction into improper fraction. So we're going to multiply 2 and 4. 2 times 4 gives 8. And then 8 plus 1 gives me 9. So my numerator is going to be 9, and my denominator will not change. So my denominator is going to be 4. Again, you multiply your whole number with the fraction's denominator. So 2 times 4 gives you 8, and then you add that to the numerator. So 8 plus 1 gives you 9, and you got 9/4. Now, since we have different denominators here, we cannot add these fractions unless we have the same denominators. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the least common multiple of my denominator, 6 and 4. So first of all, let's list down the multiples of 6 and 4. The multiples of 6 is going to be 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, and so on. And then the multiples of 4 is going to be 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and so on. I don't have to go that far. Now, I'm looking for the least common multiple. The multiple which is common in both and which is the smallest. So the smallest number is 12, which is common in both of them. So I'm going to circle it. Now, I know that the least common multiple is going to be 12. I'm going to use this to make the denominators equal. So now I know that my denominators should be 12 because the least common multiple is 12. I know that denominators should be 12. Now what do I do to make the denominator 12? Think about this. My fraction is 35 over 6 and I want the denominator to be 12. Well, what do I multiply in 6 to get 12? Well, I can multiply this by 2. If I multiply my denominator by 2, I would also have to multiply my numerator by 2 to balance my fraction. And 35 times 2 is going to be 70. So you can see that 35 over 6 is equal to 70 over 12. These are the equivalent fractions. They're equal to each other. So I can replace this fraction 35 over 6 by 70 over 12. Right? So I'm going to replace this fraction 35 over 6 with 70 over 12. So this is going to be 70 over 12. Now, again, I need to do the same process. I want my denominator to be 12. Okay, now what do I multiply in 4 to make it 12? Well, I can multiply this by 3. If I multiply my denominator by 3, I would also have to multiply my numerator by 3 to balance my fraction. 9 times 3 will be equal to 27. So 9/4 is equal to 27 over 12. These two are the equivalent fractions, and I can replace 9/4 with 27 over 12. So in place of 9/4, I'm going to write 27 over 12. And now you see that I got the denominators equal, so I can go ahead and add the fractions. So my denominator is not going to change, it's going to stay 12. And we're going to add the numerator. So 70 plus 27 is going to give me 97. So I got 97 over 12. Now you can see that this is an improper fraction because my numerator is greater than the denominator. And we cannot leave our answer in this form, so we're going to change this into mixed fraction. So we're going to use the long division method to convert this into mixed fraction. So let's divide 97 by 12. 12 will go into 97 8 times because 12 times 8 is 96. And then we're going to subtract 7 minus 6 is 1. So the remainder is 1. Now we're going to write this in the form of mixed fraction. When we write this in the form of mixed fraction, our quotient goes first. So we're going to put 8 first. 8 becomes my whole number. And then we're going to use a remainder and divisor to make the fractional part. So remainder becomes the fraction's numerator, and the divisor becomes the fraction's denominator. So my answer is going to be 8 and 1/12. That's going to be our final answer. So I hope you feel comfortable in adding mixed fractions with unlike denominators now. If you are new to this channel and want to see more videos on other math topics, be sure to subscribe down below and share it with your friends. Hi, in this video, I'll show you how to add mixed numbers in 2 different ways. So let me tell you the easy way first. Whenever we have to add the mixed number, we're going to separate the whole part first and then the fractional part. Which one is our whole part? 2 and 3. So these are the 2 whole numbers. First of all, we'll add the whole numbers. So 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. Now, we have to add the fractional part. For the fractional part, we have 1 over 3 plus 1 over 6. So what we have to do, now what do you notice here is we have different denominators. Whenever you have different denominators, you have to make the denominators equal. Then only you can add the fractions. So what do I multiply in this fraction to make the denominator equal to 6? I can multiply this fraction by 2 over 2. Now what you see that I have multiplied this fraction with 2 in the numerator and the denominator. Why I did that? Because if you notice that I just have multiplied 1 over 3 by 1 because 2 over 2 is also equal to 1. So mathematically, I have not changed the value of this fraction, but I'm only trying to make the denominators equal. Now, I have to multiply the numerators and the denominators. So 1 times 2 will be 2 and 3 times 2 will be 6. So I have 2 over 6 and then plus 1 over 6. Now I have to add the numerators. I'm going to add numerators. 2 plus 1 is 3. And then you don't add the denominators. So denominator will still remain 6. And what do you see in this? 3 over 6 is not in the simplest form because they're not in the simplest form. So we can reduce it. We can reduce it by dividing it with a number which is divisible by both 3 and 6. So let's begin with 2. If you divide 3 and 6 by 2, actually 6 is divisible. 6 is divisible by 2, but 3 is not divisible by 2. So we can divide the fraction by 2. Now let's think about the next number, which is 3. So 3 is divisible by 3 and 6 is also divisible by 3. That means 3 will work. So we'll divide this fraction by 3 over 3. Again, I'm dividing this fraction by 3 over 3. 3 over 3 is equal to 1. So mathematically, I have not changed the value of this fraction. I'm just trying to reduce this fraction to the simplest form. So 3 divided by 3 will be 1 and 6 divided by 3 will be 2. So now I have my fractional part and I also have my whole part. So I will write that together. So I have the whole part, which is 5, and I have the fractional part, which is 1 over 2. That means my final answer is 5, 1 over 2. Now let's try to add numbers in a different way, and we'll check if we get the same answer in both the situations. So another way to solve it is you change the mixed number into improper fraction first. Now, what do you mean by improper fraction? Improper fraction is when the numerator is greater than the denominator, that is called the improper fraction. And when you convert a mixed number into to a fraction, you always get the improper fraction because you're multiplying these two and then adding to the numerator. So how to change this into fraction first is you multiply the denominator with the whole part. You multiply denominator with the whole part. So 3 times 2 will give you 6. And then you add it to the numerator. You add your answer to the numerator. So 6 plus 1 will be 7. So I will get 7 for the numerator. And then the denominator still remains the same, which is 3. Now I'll put the plus sign in between. Again, I have to change this mixed number into a fraction. So what I'm going to do is I will multiply my denominator with the whole part first. So 6 times 3 will be 18. And I have to add 18 to my numerator. My numerator is 1. So 18 plus 1 will be 19. And then I still have 6 for the denominator, which it's not going to change. Now, what do you notice in these two? Again, we have different denominators. So we have to try to make the denominators equal. What do I multiply in this fraction to make the denominator equal to 6? I can multiply this fraction by 2 over 2. So let's multiply this by 2 over 2. Okay. So again, you see that I have multiplied this fraction by 2 over 2. That means I have multiplied it by 1 and not changed the value of 7 over 3. It still remains 7 over 3. Now, you multiply the numerators. 2 times 7 will be 14. And then 3 times 2 will be 6. Then I have the plus sign and I have 19 over 6. Now I have same denominators. I have like denominators. I can add the numerators. So 14 plus 19 will be, 19 plus 10 will be 29. And 29 plus 4 will be 33. So I have 33 divided by 6. Now you see that this fraction is not in the simplest form, so we can try to reduce this fraction into simplest form. So we're going to divide 33 and 6 by a number which is divisible by both. So let's talk about 2. Let's begin with 2. Now, 33 is not completely divisible by 2, but it's divisible by 6. But we can take it because the same number has to be divisible by both. Let's think about the next number, which is 3. Now, 33 is divisible by 3 and 6 is also divisible by 3, right? So we're going to divide this by 3 on top and also on bottom so that we don't
change the value of the fraction. The value of the fraction still remains 33/6 because we are just dividing that by 1. Now 33 divided by 3 will be 11, and then 6 divided by 3 will be 2. Now this time I have 11/2. Now you see that this is a fraction, and here we have got the mixed number, and the question is also a mixed number. So what we will do is, it's always a good habit to change the answer into the form of a question. So the question and answer has to be in the same form. If the question is a mixed number, then you have to change your answer to a mixed number. If the question is a fraction, then your answer should be in fraction. So I have fraction here, and my question is a mixed number, so I will change my answer into the mixed number. So how do you change a fraction into a mixed number? You just simply divide. So 11 divided by 2. How many times does 11 go into 2? 2 times 5 will be 10. I have to subtract 10 from 11. 1 minus 0 will be 1, and 1 minus 1 will be 0. So I have, how do I write this in mixed number? So I'll write my answer on the top first. This will be my whole part. 5 becomes my whole part, and for the fractional part, a remainder goes on the top, and then the divisor goes at the bottom. So this becomes my numerator, and this becomes my denominator. So I will write 1 on top, and then 2 at the bottom. So my answer is again 5, 1/2. So you still have the same answer, but I showed you 2 different methods to solve. You can pick one which you're more comfortable with. This method is easier, but this method is like, you can use the same method by changing always a mixed number to an improper fraction, and you don't have to remember anything else. So this method works for those people who can't remember more than one methods, and this is more easier to do it.
If you are new to this channel and want to see more videos on other math topics, be sure to subscribe down below and share it with your friends. Hi, in this video we'll learn how to add the fractions and whole numbers. So first of all, what we're going to do in this, we'll combine 1/6 and 3. So what I'm going to do is I'll write this together. 3 plus 1/6. Let's simplify this first and let's see what do we get. So I'm adding this and this. So I'm adding this fraction to the whole number. Now, if you remember mixed numbers, why do we call them mixed numbers? Mixed numbers are composed of a whole number and a fraction because they have a whole number in it and they have a fraction, and that's why they're called mixed fractions. So here I have 3 plus 1/6. If I need to combine the whole number and the fraction, I will get the mixed fraction. So I'm going to get 3 plus 1/6 will be equal to 3/1/6, right? So you combine the fraction with the whole number and get the mixed fraction. So I got 3/1/6. I'm going to replace 1/6 plus 3 with 3/1/6. I'm going to write here 3/8 plus, and then we'll write 3/1/6. Now, since this is in fraction, we need to convert this into fraction as well. So what I'm going to do is I'll convert this mixed fraction into an improper fraction. So how do we convert a mixed fraction into improper fraction? We multiply the denominator with the whole number. So I'm going to multiply the denominator with the whole number. 3 times 6, that will give me 18. Now I'm going to take my 18, add it to the numerator. So 18 plus 1 will be 19. So my new numerator is 19. And then I have a 6 in the denominator, which will remain as it is. So this is how you convert a mixed fraction into improper fraction. You multiply the denominator with the whole part, and then you add it to the numerator, and you get the fraction. So I got 19/6. I'm going to replace 3/1/6 with 19/6. So we're going to write 3/8 plus 3/8 plus 19/6. Now we need to add the fractions, right? We need to add the fractions. When we add the fractions, remember that we need the denominators to be the same. Since our denominators are different and 6 and 8 are not the multiples of each other, so what we're going to do is we need to multiply both the fractions with something to get the denominator equal. So what I'm going to do is I'll multiply each fraction with the other fraction's denominator. Now I'm going to multiply this fraction with this fraction's denominator. So here the denominator is 6. So I'm going to multiply 3/8 with 6 over 6. 6 over 6. And then I'm going to multiply 19 over 6 with the other fraction's denominator. Now the other fraction denominator is 8. So I'm going to multiply 19 over 6 with 8 over 8. So what we did is we multiplied each fraction with the other fraction's denominator to get the same denominators. Now what we're going to do is we'll multiply the numerator and then multiply the denominator. So 6 times 3 will be 18. And 6 times 8 is going to be 48. Plus 19 times 8 will be 152. And 6 times 8 will be 48. Now you see that the denominators are equal. I can go ahead and multiply, I can go ahead and add the numerator. So 152 plus 18 will be 170. And then we never add or subtract the denominator. So the denominator will be 48. So I got 170 over 48. Now we can reduce this fraction. There are two ways. Two different ways to write the answer. Either we can write this in the mixed fraction or we can just write this into an improper fraction. So if we write this in a fraction, we need to reduce it into the lowest term. So I'm gonna write here 170 divided by 48. Now I need to find a number which is divisible by both 170 and 48. I know that they both are divisible by 2, so I'm gonna divide them by 2. Now it's important that you do this, if you're dividing the numerator by 2, you have to divide the denominator by 2. The same concept we used here. Why did we multiply this by 6 over 6? Because we just need the denominators to be equal. Then why did we multiply the numerators? And it's important that we do the same operation in the numerator and denominator so that we don't change the value of the fraction. Because here when you multiply this by 6 over 6, basically you multiply that by 1. And when you multiply 1 by 3 over 3/8, you're not changing the value of 3/8. It's still 3/8, right? So that's why here also we're going to divide both the numerator and the denominator by 2. Now let's do that. 170 divided by 2, and that's going to be 2 times 8 is 16, and then 2 times 5 is 10. So I got 85. When you divide 170 with 2, you will get 85. You can do that on a separate piece of paper. When you divide 48 divided by 2 is going to be 24. So 85 divided by 24, and I think that we cannot reduce it anymore because 85 and 24, they are not divisible by the same number. So this is going to be your final answer. If you need to write your answer in the fraction, then 85 over 24 will be your final answer. But if you need to write the answer in the mixed fraction, you can convert that into mixed fraction by dividing it. So we're going to divide 85 with 24. And how many times 24 goes into 85? I think 3 times. So 24 times 3 is going to be 72. And then you can go ahead and subtract it. 5 minus 2 is 3. 8 minus 7 is 1. Since the remainder is less than the divisor, we can stop here and we are going to write our answer in the mixed fraction. And the way you write is you write your quotient first. You have to write 3 first. You write your quotient first. Then you're going to write your remainder. Now your remainder becomes your numerator. So you're going to write your numerator on top. And then you have to write the denominator. You're going to write the denominator will be your divisor. So the way you write is you write your quotient first, then you write your remainder becomes your numerator, and your divisor becomes your denominator. So this is the way you write, and we cannot reduce 13 over 24. So that's going to be your final answer. So if your teacher needs you to write the answer in the fraction form, you can write 85 over 24. But we usually don't write the answer in the improper fraction. When your numerator is greater than denominator, you usually convert that into the mixed fraction. So we can write this as or 3 13 over 24. That's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next video. Hi, in this video we'll learn how to add a whole number and a fraction. And I'm going to show you 2 different ways to add a whole number